My dear mother responded by kicking me and whipping me with an extension cord. She picked me up by the hair and told me she was going to kill me. I believed her. I truly believed her. Somehow I got away from her, ran into my bedroom, and hid under the bed. I could feel the pain in my back as I laid there crying, begging God for mercy. About a half hour later, my sister came into the room and told me to come out from under the bed. Pedro and my mom had gone out. I came out and took off my shirt. It hurt like hell. The shirt had stuck to the blood that was dripping out of 3 or 4 different places on my back. The asshole had taken off his leather belt and hit me with so much force that the skin in the places where he had struck me was either black or blue or gone altogether. On my legs were the red, black, and blue stripes reflecting the help my loving mother gave me with the extension cord. I stayed in my room for the rest of the night, crying and wondering what I had done to deserve such punishment. I was afraid to fall asleep. My mother and Pedro would probably continue their abuse once they returned. Every time I heard the front door open, I got under the bed. Most of the time it was my sisters. They were running around, playing, laughing as if nothing had happened. I envied them. I hated them. I wished them dead. I knew it wasn't their fault, but I just couldn't understand why I was the only one being treated abusively. I heard my mother's voice and immediately put my shirt back on and got back under the bed. She was laughing with Pedro Jr. I heard her in the kitchen talking to my oldest sister, something about Puerto Rico. I heard Pedro come in talking loud as hell, asking where I was. I got as close to the wall as possible, bracing myself for another beating. Pedro was cursing and saying he would kill me if he ever caught me writing numbers again. My mother didn't reply. I heard her tell my sisters to go to bed. Pedro continued ranting and raving for at least another hour. Then all was silent. I was sure everybody had gone to bed, but I was still too scared to come out from hiding. I knew that at any given moment, and for no reason, Pedro could charge into my room and commence beating me. I slept under the bed. It was uncomfortable, but at least I felt safe. Saturday, I crawled out from under the bed, feeling discomfort and pain. My shirt had again stuck to the wounds on my back. I didn't realize this and just pulled my shirt off normally. The pain intensified tenfold. To make matters worse, I awoke to some very bad news. My mom was pregnant again, and she and Pedro had decided to pack up and move back to Puerto Rico. I kept thinking to myself how impossible it would be to avoid getting my ass beat by Pedro once we were back on the island. My older sister and I expressed an interest in finishing school in Chicago and talked about how hard it would be for us to adjust. To my surprise, even my sister's pleas went unheard. The beating I had received the night before was still fresh in my mind. I kept waiting for my mom to tell me she was sorry and to take a look at the wounds, then do the things that mothers do to make kids feel better and heal more quickly. It never happened. Pedro was not home when my mom broke the news to us about moving. The first thing he told me when he came home was that I was lucky he hadn't killed me. He told me I had better watch myself because we were going to Puerto Rico to live in his house and I wouldn't have anywhere to run or hide. My mother heard him say these things to me but dismissed him by saying that Pedro didn't mean what he said. Just the thought of being trapped in Puerto Rico with that asshole brought tears to my eyes and made me fear for my life. I spent all day Sunday crying and wondering how I would survive. I had this idea that if Pedro actually tried to kill me and failed, my mother would probably finish me off. I spent half the night twisting and turning in my bed, wondering what I had done to deserve what was happening to me. The weekend was over and it was time to go back to school. What a relief. I had a reason to leave the house. The hatred I felt for my mother was undeniable. I didn't talk back to her or attack her, but it wasn't out of respect. It was because of fear. Fear that she would unmercifully beat me into submission, that she would torture me for the pleasure of hearing me scream. In my mother, I saw all that was evil in the world. She was Satan, she was Hitler, and she was a venomous snake disguised as a harmless flower. My mother was that warm, safe, inviting place that turned into an inferno once an entry was made. The way she would act after beating me, as if nothing had happened, burned me up inside. Somewhere in her warped mind, she must have thought she was teaching me some kind of lesson. Oh, how I hated her, how I wanted her to die. This was the first thought of committing a violent act. Papa was waiting for me outside of his house so we could walk to school together. I tried to avoid him, but he caught up to me and asked me why I didn't come out all weekend. I kept silent. I was lost in thoughts of the embarrassment I would feel if anybody saw my back. Papa was usually quiet. He usually kept messing with me until I broke down and started messing with him back. We were the class clowns, but that day it was obvious to the whole class that something was wrong. Papa and I just sat there while everybody else, including the teacher, waited for one of us to start acting up. The teacher called us outside the classroom and asked if there was some kind of disagreement between us. We told him there was nothing wrong. He kept asking questions. Finally, I told him that my family was moving to Puerto Rico and I didn't want to go. He expressed his sorrow but assured me that Puerto Rico was a beautiful place to live. I thought to myself, yeah, right, if you only knew. After school, I was trying to hurry home and lock myself in my room, away from all the violence that was constantly awaiting me. But Papo pushed me into a hallway as we walked through a gangway and locked the door behind us. He told me that he was on his way up the stairs of my house on Friday night when he heard me screaming and begging my mother for mercy. He said my mother was a bitch. When he said that, I took a swing at him in defense of my mom. Papo grabbed me in a bear hug so that I wouldn't hit him. This accidentally peeled a scab from the wounds on my back. I winced from the pain. He let me go and I showed him my back. I couldn't believe his reaction. Tears actually came out of the corners of his eyes. Even with the hatred I felt for my mother, I felt the need to come to her defense when Papo called her a bitch. That's just the way it is. Honor thy mother no matter how much pain and suffering she inflicts on you. That's why no one gets blamed but the kids. A mother's name is sacred. At home, everybody was smiling and happy. My mom had company and she was bragging about moving to the island. She called me over and she told her friends that I was such a good boy, how my grades were always good, and about how obedient I was. She acted as if she was sure I had forgotten the pain, as if I didn't have belt marks on my back.